All right, grab a seat and shut your yaps. I'm about to tell you a story about a real-life badass named Raul P. Benavidez. Though his name was Raul, he went by Roy. This guy, I tell you, he was the human embodiment of the warrior ethos. You know, that thing they hammer into your skull in basic training. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. Sounds like a Hollywood script, right? Well, Benavidez was the real fucking deal, not some made-up Rambo. Born in the back-asswards town of Cuero, Texas, to a couple of poor sharecroppers, Roy had it rough from the get-go. His parents kicked the bucket by the time he was 7 years old, barely knee-high to a grasshopper, so he was raised by his aunt and uncle. Typical tough luck story. Kid's got to drop out at 15, starts picking cotton and sugar beets just to help keep the lights on. But our boy Roy isn't one to sit around on his ass feeling sorry for himself. Nope. At 17, he's like, screw this, and joins the Texas National Guard. 2 years later, bam. He's an active-duty infantry soldier bouncing around from South Korea to Germany. From there, military police training. But wait, it gets crazier. By 65, this madman's in Vietnam, stepping on a damn landmine while on patrol. He wakes up halfway across the world, paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors are all doom and gloom, saying he'll never walk again. Gonna discharge his ass. But these asshats obviously don't know old Roy. He's not having any of that no walking shit. Roy starts a one-man nightly training mission, pulling himself out of bed, crawling to the wall, tears and sweat be damned. And would you believe it? The crazy sumbitch does it. Roy stands up right in front of the doctors when they're about to hand him his walking papers, and they're like, well, shit, guess we're sending you back. Upon return to the 82nd Airborne Division, Roy's barely able to walk. 6 months later, this fucking machine is running 10 miles with a rucksack like it's a goddamn Sunday afternoon stroll. Now, you would think that Roy would now be satisfied with the fact that he isn't in a damn wheelchair forever, but not Roy. He then decides to go through Special Forces selection, becomes a weapons expert, and back to Vietnam he goes. This guy's got balls of steel, I tell you. Which brings us to May the 2nd, 1968. On that morning, Roy is coming back from Mass when he hears a panicked call for help over the radio. His buddy, Sergeant First Class Leroy Wright, and his team are getting their asses handed to them by the NVA, outnumbered 100 to 1. Their panicked radio calls reported heavy casualties, certain slaughter without relief. Rescue choppers tried desperate extractions, but disastrous enemy fire repelled all efforts, except for one daring pilot willing to try again despite the naked threat. Roy doesn't blink. He grabs a medic bag and hops on the chopper, just Roy, his knife, and the pilot. Yes, you heard that right. In all of the madness, Roy forgot his goddamn rifle. It's a scene straight out of a shitty movie. With the helicopter unable to land, and realizing the team on the ground would be unable to reach them anyway, Roy, without hesitation, demanded combat jump insertion into the mile-wide melee to effect rescue, and the towering hellscape hornet's nest awaited below. Moments later, Roy plunged 10 feet down through jungle canopies, immediately confronted by dozens of enemy fighters. Despite overwhelming surprise, fire ripping through his flesh, the frenzied, fearless Green Beret charged over 75 yards toward his ravaged countrymen, bullets and shrapnel carving chunks from his body as he raced. These valiant, stranded soldiers were in dire condition, half dead or gravely injured. Yet amid constant barrages, Roy administered morphine, bandaged those savable, expertly directed their feeble return fire, and then hauled their asses to an evacuation clearing. Flawless courage, withstanding relentless munitions coring his frame with bleeding tunnels the entire way. With survivors staged, miraculously a helo touched down, despite unrelenting bullet deluges. So, under pulverizing fire, this tireless machine of a man lugged and guarded his crippled comrades aboard until believing all were evacuated safely. Then, hell-bent on retrieving the dead, he charged back solo into hot hell. Dashing back just before liftoff, Roy's heart sank finding the chopper ablaze after being hit by enemy rounds, precious cargo dead or thrown clear by the explosion yet still breathing. Without hesitation, Roy plunged into the flaming fuselage, double-fisting survivors to safety. Then, despite being the sole American fit for duty, at least in his badass mind, he was fit for duty, he secured fallen brethren via repeated brave forays while facing withering attacks. Between relentless bullet barrages and bombing, still, he masterfully directed perfect airstrike after airstrike onto enemy formations practically up his ass. In total, for over 6 unimaginable hours of horror, this frenzied shepherd tended his ravaged flock, all while subjected personally to such profound, life-draining savagery that even Satan himself would have been screaming his safe word. 37 hemorrhaging gunshot and shrapnel penetrations, including legs, stomach, and backside. Right cheekbone and jaw pulped by a rifle butt, eyes swollen shut. Bayonet impalement through his torso, leaving his fucking ribcage utterly exposed. Grenade concussions separating flesh from bone in places. Eardrums burst, skull fracture leaking brains. Oh, and over 2 hours of emergency mid-mission battlefield transfusions just to keep his heart beating. By the time Roy was evacuated, his mutilated shell had lost nearly all blood and was carrying enough lead to sufficiently sink a modest skiff. He was basically shredded beef depositing a chunky crimson trail in his tortuous wake. He was literally holding his goddamn intestines in his hands when pulled into the chopper. After what seems like an eternity in hell, Roy is pronounced dead and stuffed into a body bag. But this is Roy motherfucking Benavidez. Unable to move or speak due to his injuries, this magnificent bastard spits in the doctor's face to let him know that the proverbial fat lady has not yet sang. Roy spends the next year in hospitals, but eventually recovers and continues his career as an American badass. Roy retired in '76 as a master sergeant, but did Roy sit on his laurels? Fuck no! He started mentoring America's youth, steering them away from gangs and pushing them toward the military. He also fought for Vietnam veterans' disability benefits. When asked repeatedly if he'd do it again, Roy's answer was always the same. There'll never be enough paper to print the money, nor enough gold at Fort Knox to keep me from doing what I did. Master Sergeant Raul, Roy P. Benavidez, received the following awards and medals for his heroism in Vietnam. The Congressional Medal of Honor, 5 Purple Hearts. The Defense Meritorious Service Medal. The Meritorious Service Medal. The Army Commendation Medal. And the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor. Roy was often referred to as the unkillable soldier. But on November 29, 1998, at the age of 63, Roy finally met his match when he succumbed to complications from diabetes. Master Sergeant Raul Roy P. Benavidez was buried with full military honors at Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery. I salute you, Master Sergeant Benavidez. Hoorah! If you fuckers like this video and want my take on more topics, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hoorah!